Thanks for
Not
coming on the
much
show,
better.
man. It's
Good to
good to
be
see
here.
you. It's
Yeah,
great. Saw you at the Top 100 Summit, and we've vowed to spend a little more time together this year. Hopefully, we
yeah.
can make that happen. We're too close not to. We're too
It's you get
close not
caught
to.
up. It just stuff gets in the way, and
I know.
it well-meaning intentions. I can't get across the street sometimes. So even though it's just over the state line, it's good to
I
see you.
know. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great to see you. All right, so I wanted to start with your father. All right,
Oh,
so
okay.
first,
Yeah.
first tell everybody who he is and what he did, and I just want to know like how he influenced your career, and then we'll kind of take everybody through the journey of how you got to where you are today.
It's a good story, and my dad's Coleman Plecker, and he's a retired PGA golf professional, and my dad, um, you know, I like to say it was that golden era of the golf pro. That my dad was the head pro. He had the shop, he had the range, the bag storage, the carts, and like it was, and the majority of career he was at Manor Country Club in Rockville, Maryland, where I spent a lot of time. And it was like our culture, my family was we worked a lot. And my dad in particular was just there, and like the Northeast with the seasons are kind of compressed because of the weather. And you got Tuesdays ladies day, men's afternoon play, Thursdays like a full play day, seniors Friday we'd have kind of a half outing and tea times, Saturday, Sunday all day, Monday outing and run it back again, and that was like the
Oh yeah,
summer. And and to see my dad, I'd it was like go to work.
yeah.
And and we lived in Ellicott City, which was like a 45-minute kind of country drive from between Baltimore and DC to get to the club. And we'd leave before the sun came up, and I'd work pulling carts and being around him, and we'd get through a full day. um, I mean, I felt like the richest guy in the world. I had a pocket full of cash tips. I could eat at the snack bar, and that was like the best summer job ever, being around my dad and the golf business.
How old were you when you
And
started? When he let you start doing that? Way, way,
so,
way before you were supposed to start working,
yeah,
probably.
I always say he's got some child labor laws to answer
Yeah.
to for that. But I remember at his first head pro job at Eagles Nest in Baltimore. I would wash range balls by hand, and he would
Oh
pay
gosh.
me in Susan B. Anthony coins, those dollar coins from, you know, the seven, Spirit of '76. But, I just, it was glorious times, and being a family, going to the club together. My mom and sister would show up late, and we'd all have dinner at, 8:30 at night on a hot summer night, and loving it. And just the community of the people that I worked with, the pros and the old school pros,
Oh yeah.
the guys that just, came up in the biz. And we had all these college students from University of Maryland who worked there. It was like characters, like, and hilarious people. Um, and laughed hard, live hard, play hard, all that stuff. And you know, it was such a golden era. And coming up in that, I just always wanted to do something in golf. And I I I was the worst person behind the counter. Like I would screw up everything. I would get the register wrong. Somebody had a return and I didn't do it right, or I didn't know the answer to the question about the event. And it was pretty clear to everybody there. It's like, don't put Joe behind the counter. So I love being out in the people, and I'd find myself on the range a lot. And and I mean, like, hanging out with players and talking golf swings. I just sort of somehow gravitated towards the driving range. And I'd come down and we'd have those big buckets, and I'd watch my dad teach. I'd hit balls, he'd tell me some things. I'd walk the line, talk to some people, there were a bunch of guys my age, and we'd look at each other's swings and play golf. And um, I mean, I remember there was a great guy, Eric Egloff, who was a terrific player, went to Richmond, and he's still playing professionally. But Eric could hit it a mile. He could shape shots. He had the ping eye twos, and we're like, flush. I remember Eric could hit a one iron off of a cart path and not make a mark and just flush a
Jeez.
one iron. And I'm like, wow, that's cool. So we just, being amongst that and hitting shots with your friends and your mates, and make it go high, curve it, persimmons. I mean, look, I grew up, with Bilatas and persimmons,
Oh yeah.
and and it was a lot of fun to be around him. I mean, my dad played in the 1980 Kemper Open, and he played in a few tour events, but
Okay.
but
So he
I
could play.
I totally,
Yeah.
and my dad had this wide interest in playing, teaching, running the shop. And he also he's one of the guys that started PGA education.
Mm.
And he started out, he was with the national committee that worked with Stanford and a few independent groups to create what we now have as our education. Because he was the guy that went through business school. I don't know if you've ever heard of this,
Oh yeah.
like where
I did it. I was the last generation of had to go through the three business schools, and then they started the new program. So yeah.
So, well, you're dating yourself, but you don't look that old.
I
I know what
appreciate
you. But
it.
my dad was that era where they said, "Hey, we've got to form up something more structured," and and it was great because we had leadership like Max Elbin from our section. We had Alan Ranowski, Bill
Hmm.
Strasball, and that was the other thing. My dad sent me to Bill Strasball, for lessons
Oh,
when I
wow.
was in high school. And he's like, you got to go see Mr. Strasball. And and I'd get dropped off at Columbia Country Club, hit balls, work with Bill, and then I'd kind of hang around, watch him teach. And he would tell me a lot of the things that were really coming out of him, which were like, never ask a player to do something they can't do.
Mm.
Um, those who dare to teach must never cease to learn. Um, and Bill had this remarkable ability to remember everything about a person, meeting them once. And I saw him just engage with people on a very genuine level. And that was impactful. And there were so many things that my father did for me to bring me in close, like the Kemper Open in 1980. I went to the Kemper Open with my dad into the clubhouse in the locker room. There was like no security.
Mm.
This is
Yeah.
just walking around with him, and we're looking at the lockers, and he points to his, and he goes, "Look," and it said Arnold Palmer and Coleman Plecker right next to each other.
That's so cool.
And as we're walking out of the locker room, guess who walks in? It's
Oh
Arnold
no.
Palmer.
Get out of here.
It's like it's hot as hell. It's July, and he's got his sweater draped over his shoulder. He's looking cool as a cucumber, and he walks up to my dad. He goes, "Hello, I'm Arnold Palmer." And my dad's like stammering. He's like, "Well, and he's like, "Oh, are you a local pro?" He's, "Yeah, I qualified. Oh, good luck." And I guess that stuck with me too. That was like it was so cool watching my dad, compete and play, and and then
Do you,
we
do you remember the time when you told him that you want to get into business, and did he try to talk you out of it ever?
he never talked me out of it, but he knew he's like, well, you're probably not going to get behind a counter anytime soon, but I was ultra focused on teaching. I knew I wanted to teach,
Mm.
and
Even at
and
that age.
I was so I just it seemed interesting to me, Jason, and it was like, and I took a trip with him when he was playing really well. He would go see Carl Lauren
Hmm.
up
Yeah.
in Long Island, and we'd get in the car and drive up to Long Island, and he'd work with Carl for 2 hours, and I'd get like 15 minutes with Carl, and I'd watch all of it, and there's a book that Carl Lauren wrote called One Move to Better Golf.
Yep. I read it.
and Carl talked a lot about the setup, and he really liked, getting a lot of tilt and open with the shoulders, and and he had this routine, this walk-in routine. And I learned it from my dad and Carl, and I did it my whole life. And
Hmm.
I'm playing for Seton Hall on the golf team, and I get up, I'm playing twosomes at a St. John's tournament, and this guy, Rahid Ismail was the guy's name. And I get up and do my routine. I've never met him. And he goes, Carl Lauren. And I went, yeah, how'd you know? And he goes, watch this. And he gets up and does the same,
Oh
exact
my
same
gosh.
setup. And we spent the whole day like critiquing our, setups. And
Hmm.
but going to see a great teacher like Carl and watching this, going, wow, like you could do, I didn't know this, how far you could keep going, learning about the golf swing and teaching. And I took a job right out of college working in South Florida, and Brian Lebedevich, who I knew in college, he went to Loyola, and I
Hmm.
played at Seton Hall, and we
Was
we
this
were
the Reef when you went to the Reef, or is
mhm.
that after? Yeah. Okay.
And in college, so I knew Brian Lebedevich as a collegiate golfer, and we compete against each other. And I remember a buddy's like, we're working Ocean Reef, and he goes, I want to go up and see this McLean seminar today. And I'm like, that's cool. Can I go? It's like, sure, come on up. And we came up, and Jim had the most comprehensive presentation on working with video and analysis
Yeah.
and well thought out. And here's why this, blah, blah, blah. And I went, this was awesome. And Brian Lebedevich is like spooling up cables and putting stuff away and like he's like doing everything for this presentation. And it's over, and I said, Brian, can I meet Jim? He goes, sure, come on over. And I just, first sentence, I said, can I work for you? And he's and he said, and he looked at Brian, and he goes, can he play? And Brian, and I'm playing I was okay. I played D1 golf, and he goes, yeah. The guy was like, yeah, he can. And he goes, okay, go up and interview at New York City at Chelsea Piers. And that's how I got to work up in Manhattan. And I worked at my first real teaching job was, working for Jim at Chelsea Piers in New York City.
The tree. Yeah, the tree is big.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's crazy
So
how many
all
people
that
have
sort of,
that. Yeah. What year was
it,
that when you went to
that
the seminar?
that was 1996 or 97, I think. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, I had the same
Yeah.
similar experience when I started working for Dana. It was 2001. I went to his seminar, and that's where I met like Jason Carbone and Michael Hunt and
Crazy.
Sprecher, and all these guys that I'm friends with now.
Isn't that
That's where
crazy?
first, but it like ignited the same situation with me of, man, this is the coolest thing ever. I want to get better at this.
The magnet of the people that share that same interest, they just come together. And it's funny because when I see Jim, I say thank you.
Yeah.
When I see him, I say thank you for that opportunity, because it really I mean, I'm like, he's like, I don't know this guy, Brian, you know this guy? It's like, yeah.
Yeah, that's
and and
crazy.
and I just gobbled it all up and ran. And teaching golf in Manhattan at that era, having no money, like, I mean, like, I was flopping on people that I went to college with who were working in finance, that I could stay on their couches.
I was gonna say, how
Like,
can you even afford to, yeah, to live?
couldn't,
Yeah,
I
that's great.
and
Yeah.
and I literally, I was like, working, month to month. But it was awesome because I was doing it, and there was such a satisfaction in, like, okay, I'm seeing this work. And it 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 rolled into a lot of things. I learned from that. I think that there's a certain tenacity, isn't it? Like, you just, like, if you're
Sure.
going to be a head golf pro, you better know, like, who's opening, who's closing, what's going on, where's all the activity. And my dad was a tenacious guy about knowing all this stuff. And there's a work ethic that comes
Sure.
out of that. And my whole family shares that. And when it came to teaching, I was like, well, you're going to do this, get to work, figure this out and get amongst it. And
Yeah.
Chelsea Piers is open 364 days a year, 5 a.m. to midnight. And
Hmm.
Christmas Day was the only day they were closed. And if you wanted to teach every day, that you could teach every day. And some days I did all day.
Yeah, that's such a rarity too to like you get a full-time teaching job that soon out of college. I mean, it happens a little bit more nowadays, but back then you had to be an assistant, you had to be a head pro. That's kind of the route I took,
Yeah.
and you know, everybody knows my story. I was miserable and ended up finally finding, a full-time teaching job, but back then it was tough. I mean, you've worked go through your kind of your journey of your club resume is ridiculous,
It's
right? Like
it's
Baltimore Country Club. I
yeah.
mean, you got talk tell everybody where you've worked.
So I
Like,
I got Ocean Reef right out of college. I was at Ocean Reef. Then I went to Chelsea Piers. Then I worked at Essex County Country Club. In college, I worked at Baltusrol. That was
that's
amazing.
the other one. Yeah, I was like,
I
holy
was at
cow.
Baltusrol, and I met a lot of great people there at Baltusrol. The I went to Bent Pine Golf Club in Vero Beach and taught
Mm,
there in the winters, back and forth. And then I took the role. I was the first ever director of instruction title in the Middle Atlantic section. I was the first person to be an A14 when that first came out.
oh wow.
And that was BCC, that was Baltimore Country Club. And I had a decade there, and then I moved to the Elkridge Club, which is a great Seth Rayner golf course that's in Baltimore City. And from there, went to where I am now, which is Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah,
And it's been, each place had its meaning and its reasons and things that I learned. And, it's funny what I'm doing today. Like, like it's not even close to what I thought I would be doing 10 years ago. Like I thought it was like you just stay at one place,
yeah.
go, 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 and then you're on a rocking chair on the porch, and it's like, oh, there's old Joe.
You didn't
We
think
had
you'd move around that much, huh?
nah, we had
Yeah.
a guy at BCC named Walter Romans, and Walter Romans was in his 90s when I was there, and he was a longtime pro from the 50s, 40s, and 50s, right?
Wow.
And Walter played on tour, and and that was sort of the legacy, right? You're affiliated with the club, you stay there, and you kind of move on to emeritus and hang out, and
Yeah.
and and I think now with teaching, it's like, you're reaching millions of people digitally, and it's a global thing, and it's remarkable how fast that model has changed,
Mm,
and
yeah.
and the world that we're in is so amazing to reach more people, because our scale used to be limited to whatever club where you were, and
Sure.
and
Yeah.
and maybe a guest or two here and there, and now it's like, yeah, you can teach anybody. It's amazing.
Fun fact: we did our honeymoon at Bent Pine Country Club. How
No
about that?
way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I grew up in West Virginia.
yeah.
My first assistant's job. My wife wants to get married in the summer, which is a bad idea, right? So it's the busiest time. So I didn't think we were going to get to do a honeymoon. And one of the members that was a member at Bent Pine talked my boss into
Awesome.
letting me go, and they raised like a couple $1,000s or something, and
No way.
bought us a plane ticket. And yeah, I couldn't afford to do any of that, and
That's so cool.
that's funny. We stayed in a condo on Bent Pine,
No
and
way.
went to Disney. Yep. So
That's a great club, and everybody there, it's a second club of a lot of people that were Johns Island.
right, yeah,
And they had this foresight, this vision to like build inland, and it was no tee times. It was bent grass when I worked there. They were proud of it because it was like nobody played it in the summer, and so it's
yeah.
cooler in the winter, and they had bent grass greens. And
Wow,
it was like
hard to
it
keep
was
those
it,
now.
no, there it's no more. They don't have
Yeah,
that anymore.
yeah,
Yeah. But
it's
overall, it's
insane.
like the Pat Gorman who was there was really a big believer in me. And the Bent Pine era was I PGA National, the PGA range down at Port St. Lucie had just kind of opened, that
Mm.
range in the round that was right off I-95, and it was lit till 10 p.m. And I'm single. I've got, nothing to do. I finished teaching. It's dark at 5. I'd get a Subway sandwich and drive down 95 and hit balls till 10. And that's where met Rick Martino,
Oh
because he
yeah,
was PGA
remember Rick?
director of instruction. And Rick would, be teaching. I'd say, "Can I watch?" He'd say, "Sure." And we started to get to know each other, and he helped me with my game, and I learned a lot. And Rick was the first person to ever have a pressure plate that I actually saw
Mm.
anybody use. And it was a clunky monster. Like, it just, and it was wonky. Like, the video would be this way, and the forced plate data would go this way. So you're
Oh
looking at
wow.
somebody going this way, but it's going this way, and you're like, is that when,
Yeah.
and it was all, but it was there. You could see it, and it was great. It was like mind blowing that somebody's looking at this, and I wanted to know everything he knew about it, and he
Mm.
shared a ton about this stuff. But even then, that early phase, it was kind of formative, because nobody knew what they were looking at.
Exactly. I was about to say that's another question when we get into the technology mechanics. It's like I asked some questions to our panel this week at our teaching summit, and you don't have to answer this right now, but we can get into it. But like, what did we used to teach that we know now is not factual because of our ability to measure and how we've evolved as coaches? I mean, the list is long for me,
My God,
but so much
yeah,
of it was how we use the ground and how we can measure, and then all the stuff that we can do now with 3D. It's incredible, like how far we've come as
unbelievable.
an industry.
I think that piece of, that humility of, like, wow, like, I told a lot of people uh, to stay centered, you
Right.
know, uh, you know, you know, twist, do all these moves, and it's like, oh my gosh, like,
Can't move your head at all.
yeah, and that lead foot's got to stay in position. You don't want to see that move. Keep that foot there, right? And
Oh
it's like,
gosh.
oh, and now I've got, it's like, it's so more correct and athletic. And you know if I don't know, like, I see those old swings, like grainy footage of way back when, and the guys in the cutaway blazers and ties, and you think about, it's not that far ago, where
Yeah.
now you look at the athletes hitting it, and what we thought was happening by just looking, and what we know through the tech now, and feel like, just being around better athletes, you can
Sure.
see it. I mean,
Yeah.
like your son. I mean, like how much better is your son, for being born in the era that you could fast track his skill set.
Oh,
Your
100%.
knowledge
Yeah.
that you rest on, and the tech, and the
Hmm.
precision, and the timing of which you give the right information, makes the players are better faster than they've ever been.
So what brought you to Savannah? Is like what was the? I mean, obviously your facility is amazing. 7 golf courses. It's a huge property, but
It's crazy.
talk
Yeah.
me through that process of making that decision.
I love where I'm from. I love Baltimore. Okay. I love the Elk Ridge Club where I was last. And I went in on a winter morning to give a golf lesson at the Elk Ridge Club. And I opened the door to the performance center. You hit the button, and the doors opening up, and snow is blowing in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this doesn't feel like I can, I don't know if I could keep waiting for spring, right? And it's not that there aren't a ton of awesome facilities up north. They're amazing. But part of it for me was like, okay, I've been here a lot my whole life, and I've never resided in a place where it's year round. And I had thought about this with my wife. It was very plotted out that we were ready. And there had been some opportunities before, but it wasn't quite, the timing lined up. And I came down here for the visit. It was terrific. I you know I I live here at the club. I can commute by a
Oh,
golf
really?
cart if I want. Yeah, I mean it's great. Our kids are really having it's a very different lifestyle. And look, Baltimore is a big city, and we have to helicopter parent if like you can't just open the door and let your kids go play outside.
Right. Yeah.
Here, I can do that here, and that had a big value to me. And but you put on top of that, the courses, the range, the club was like, we're going to build a performance center, and we want to do this the right way and put it together. And this was the third performance center I had been a part of from the ground up, from the
Oh, wow.
inception. And so I had a few things that I've learned about it. I was like, I can add value, I can help, bringing the team together. Very exciting stuff for me. I like you, I think a big part of our timing in life right now is like we want to help the next generation up. We want to
Yeah.
help other teachers. We want to be impactful. And I felt like this was the best place to do it, and it's been great.
So talk a little bit about building the building. I think that's interesting. I've had
Hmm.
a few folks on here that, are in that process. My building was there, when I got there. So, you always come in and go, this is awesome, but like I would have done this differently or whatever. Like what
Yeah.
was your framework or some of the necessities aside? And you can talk about the tech that you've put in there. And I've walked in through it and it's really great. I think it's very well done. But talk
Thank
us through
you.
that process of like what you thought was important and how it
The
came about.
the big the center bay where I teach, I call it center court. It's like it's big, it's really wide, it's really deep, plenty of room for people to sit. I found that when I teach, in a family, maybe a junior's there and the mom and dad want to hang out, and
Hmm.
there's plenty of room to hang out. There's versatility for large groups. I actually didn't do it in this building, but I kind of wanted, the bleachers at high school, like where they push into the wall.
Oh yeah.
Like I wanted the back wall to be like pull out bleachers,
Oh, that's what an idea. Yeah, that
so we could
sounds
put like
cool.
60 people back there, right?
I'm
And
not
and I
sure I
wanted
want
it.
that every day.
Well, maybe not,
Yeah, but you're talking about
but
like a bit like a junior class or something, or
yeah, like
yeah,
have like everybody come in, and and the doors all kind of like open to each other, and the fitter's right next door, so I can sort of pop in and go, hey, you know, give me try something and bring it over quickly.
hmm
The repair center, the way that the loft lie machine is really accessible because it's crazy, right? We get a client and they go, hey, um, we just changed your grip and your setup, and you're hitting it more neutral, but the ball's hooking off the world. Oh my gosh, let me test these. Oh my
it's
gosh,
too
they're
upright.
they're they're too upright.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, I just had them fit. And I was like, well, okay, let's
Fit to
go
that
back.
12-degree left path.
Right. So we're like, oh, we need that, right? And
Yeah.
so some of these learnings about like what's really essential in the moment, and how the creature comforts are fine. Everybody, we love that stuff, right? Like our pal Lou Guzzi's got like whatever scotch in the world you want to
Yeah.
get your hands on,
In
right?
a
And that's cool,
fireplace.
right? The fireplace, and it's super cool. That's him. It's authentically him. And for me, I did I've been doing some things my way, and they're more of like how to make the client feel like it's this wide open space. It's this very welcoming kind of like sit down, bring your friends, put your stuff down, leave it here, um, and we'll kind of get you what you need. And then that centerpiece of the dual plates, the cameras, the radar, the screens, and how we can kind of control the flow of the information is unique to each person.
Hmm.
Like some people, I'm just going to show them their downline, and that's all I'm going to show you, right? And some people, it's like the full fire hose of info comes out.
Right.
So I, I I've learned how to, even the desk, the way I position my desk, like I don't have my back to the door when somebody walks in. I can kind of see who's coming in and out,
Gotcha.
and
Yeah,
I
that's
can
important.
easily kind of exit, right? So nobody can kind of sneak up on me, but it's not like
Sure.
I can see in the whole room. and I'm kind of peeking over the monitors when I need to, and I have a standing desk. I can when I want to, I can make it go higher, and I can stand up,
Oh,
because
okay.
we're and sometimes that's a better flow for me, and I'm not sitting and getting up and down. And a lot of these little things, like the little things that I've found that work better for me, are are just the vibe, like how the vibe works. And bigger is always better. The bigger your room you can make, the better.
Hmm.
And I know for a lot of folks, they're like, Pleck, I don't have, we have a budget. It's like, well, make one bay that's like a super bay, and that's where you want to do your group events, your all your stuff. Bring in your members, bring in your clients, have a special night, have a great player come hit balls, and just get out of the way and let people see the tech and all the stuff. It's just some things that I've learned about making it more appealing.
And you got a front desk. You got like somebody that checks people in and does all that. That's like
We're
next level.
we're so lucky,
Yeah.
we've got a great front desk, and folks who can kind of, again, set that vibe. They come in and, introduce themselves, or what can we help you with? What are you here for?
Hmm.
And we kind of know, and we've got some member practice bays, and they stay really full too. So
Yeah.
there's always people kind of moving in and out, and very friendly, very approachable stuff. And that's lessons in learning how to make it really comfortable for somebody
Sure.
who's first timer coming in there. Like, it could be intimidating at some
Sure.
places,
Yeah.
and we try to keep it cool. Yeah.
Yeah. You did a great job.
Thanks, man.
Really good. So what tech? Take everybody through what tech you have. What everything like in the names
Yep.
of what you're using.
Swing Catalyst, we do a 3D plate in one studio, and I've got dual plates in the center bay. We've got TrackMan with our club fitting, primarily with TrackMan. Uh, Studios are using G quads. We've got the three camera setup. So we've got front, right, left, and down line. We don't have the vertical cam.
Mm.
Um, and we're using PuttLab, which, I've been with PuttLab for a very long time. We have some indoor capacity that we're improving right now, but we do a lot of times we'll go outside and set that up for a good day under a tent, put it on the green, which is also really fun to do. And overall, we've got, a lot of analog toys, right? Like a plane swing, that I can adjust and play with. I've got junior size plane swings too. I do a
Like you
lot.
talking about like the old like explainer looking the circle.
Yeah.
I thought I saw that in your bay.
And I really found there's some people that makes a lot of sense to. That when
Hmm.
I put them in there and I get the exit, or I feel they can feel where their hand path's going, they can get a sense of where the shaft isn't going. They can get that auditory and kinesthetic feel.
Sure.
It makes sense. And so it's been a good tool for me. And it's again, not everybody.
Yeah.
And I'll put the flywheel, like I've got the concentric, eccentric, push
Yeah.
pull.
I love
Um,
that.
Thanks. I got
Yeah, I
Bosu
saw it at the
balls.
summit. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
really cool.
So, and the flywheel's been fun because I sort of, I stumbled into this idea with playing with something in the gym.
Hmm.
And then I was like, oh, and I got the bar, and it's like for squats, and I'm like, that doesn't feel right. And then what I did is I took, on the grommet, I took two separate handles. So the right arm can pull up, and then the left can pull up. So, and it kind of gives you a really good feel of what you're doing while it's pulling you back down. And so
Mm.
you're
Yeah, I
you're
like that.
and it's sort of like, I kind of liken it to, you see somebody who's really good with a speed bag,
Right.
and it's kind of like you got to get the rhythm of this thing,
Yeah.
and I got
I do
players
that
that
with
get
the
in.
bands, where you pull in the lawnmower, basically is what I call it,
Yeah,
right? It's like
you got
similar
it.
movement for the people that aren't going to watch the YouTube version of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's good. It's great for pivot stuff for
Love it.
sure. What because we're going to get into the ground stuff, that like the things you talked about in your I thought your presentation at the Top 100 Summit was awesome, and I want to kind of get
Thank
into
you.
some of that. But sort of, how would you describe your teaching philosophy, and sort of how would you take somebody like a new student, you know, give us the structure of like how you like to teach? Well, that's a big question,
So,
but
no, no, I love it. And one of the ways I describe it is I teach from the top down and ground up. And so what I look for first are top down signatures, and they really start with interviews, physical structure. I like to say structure dictates mechanics. And I'll look at the person, but then I'll watch them while they're hitting, and we'll see what their signature on radar is. Meaning, is this a player that's going to hit a draw? Are they looking for a fade? Are they really neutral? I've had some players like, Tim O'Neill, who's probably one of the straightest ball strikers you'll ever see. And when you know that, and then you can use the radar, you can see how the trail arm and trail hand grip influence how they're planing, folding, and releasing the golf club.
mm-hmm.
And this connects directly to a ground reaction force. And when we I like to say, if we connect a trail hand grip, a dominant ground reaction force, and an exit, nothing bad will happen. And
Ooh.
so I'm always looking at, I'm looking at these
So
big
really that
things.
easy.
It well, and for so many players, that I look at, they might be pretty good from the top down. I had a great honor of seeing Ben Coles in the studio, and he was number one on Corn Ferry when he came in, and flawless top down, flawless. Okay, and we just did a couple amplifiers from the ground up, and that
Ooh.
was it. And
Like,
so,
describe that lesson. That would be interesting. Like, what did you do with them?
so there's a
What'd you
really
see, and then what'd you do?
amazing face to path. I mean, we're talking 0.4 to 0, you know, with a driver at 114 miles an hour, 115 every single time. And the request was simple. Hey, I just want to hit a little further.
Oh boy, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
we looked at it, and I'm looking at all these flawless radar characteristics. And I said, okay, let's see what's happening here from the ground up. And his center of pressure was completely still when he started the club back.
Oh,
And
okay.
so there was no horizontal movement of center of pressure. And I like to call it jogging. That like I'm pressing from foot to foot.
Sure.
My mass doesn't move a ton, but my pressure is. And what we did was just a really simple exercise to get a little bit of the pressure moving, and then the handle. And I'm not kidding. It was like 5 minutes. He was 5 miles an hour faster.
Wow.
And he's like, that was great. And I said, you want to go faster? And he said, no. And I
Don't
was
want
like,
to lose
okay.
control of the ball, right?
I was like, that's great. And it was funny because the funny part was this caddy, and I want to say it was Ryan was his name, and came in, and he's like literally in the back of the room, like arms crossed like this. He's like, hey. And I'm like, all right. And we started, and in that really quick span we got the speed up, and he kind of broke his smile, and he's like, you're all right. He's like, I was worried you were gonna mess with his grip or his setup or something. I was
Oh
like,
God.
no. I said, man, I said, and it's kind of fun because it was a great way to again, how I look at a player, which is like, man, all these things are terrific, but we can add some power. We can increase some pressure shift. We can get a little quicker in how we move back, and it'll go faster. And but my whole view of looking at players is I want to first see what they are. I want to measure them for what they are. I want to know what their signature is, what they're trying to do, and then we understand that top down influence to the ground up. And that served me well as a guideline for how to start. And where it goes, is you and I both know,
Oh,
a wild ride,
sure.
from everything from what type of shoes are you wearing to your ball, what's that setting on your driver, is
Oh
that
yeah.
good? Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, right? So, and that's why every day is like, you don't know what's going to happen. That's what makes it fun.
So are you putting your members on the plates most of the time, or is it sort of depend on, like, I guess their goals and what they're trying to get out of, or what you see?
Yeah.
Like what's the what's your sort of structure that you go through? You mentioned
We,
interview, and then obviously you're gonna assess
yeah.
them. Like, what's that look like for your member golfer?
So my member golfer, we're going to start in the studio because we can control the environment, right? We can
Right.
go and we can sort of in that private space, we can go, hey, what's going on? How was the last round? What are you working on? Where are you? And I like to say, we're always trying to find our players. Like we have to kind of get down with them and bring them back. We can
Okay.
lead them somewhere, but having been a golf student, gone to some teachers, being told what to do, or oh, look at this swing, you're doing blah blah, and I'm starting right away, and I'm already like, I feel I'm being told what to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I think my perspective, no matter who it is like, what are you here for? How can I help you? What do you think is happening? Have you ever seen any of this stuff before? Do you know anything about stance width, how this impacts what you're doing? Let's start there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I might not get into peak dominant ground forces and decelerations. I might go, hey, I might be thinking about that for later, but I'm slowly getting them there to what they need. And I get more players now that go, hey, I'd love to spend the morning with you. I'd love to go play a few holes and then come back to the studio for a couple hours. And man, is that fun. Like I'm
Yeah.
having more fun giving two players lessons a day than 10. And I think it's more impactful. I
Well,
think I'm
it's the
doing
way
better.
it's the way we'd love to be able to help players is watch them play because we never hardly get to watch even our members play. Right? It's like let's see what's up in
If
the
I
in the field of battle, and then kind of back into all right. Here's what we need to work on. That's
if
awesome if you can do that.
I got really lucky when I learned it, and it was early, right? Like let's say I'm at a bent pine, and one of the things Pat Gorman would make us do is you have to go play golf with the members. And I'd get paired in a group of three folks that I didn't know, and I'd see them play, and then afterwards I was like, gosh, I know exactly what I'd do with each of these players,
Sure.
and it gave me such a better perspective on what we do. Because to your point, you know, we could be right about what the player mechanically needs to do, but we've never seen him on a par three over water, right?
Yeah.
And I think that old school, right? Coming from that old school place of golf, we need to keep doing that. No matter what, you got to play with your players.
For sure.
Yeah.
So let's dig into the weeds a little bit
Come on.
with some mechanic. Yeah. So this is what we do on the show. So I mean, let's just talk about using the ground, right? It's like
Yep.
talk me through like from setup to finish, like what you like to see. And I know it's there's not one way to do it. I get it, but it's
Yeah.
like even a better question is like what you don't want to see somebody do,
Yeah.
and we can kind of get into like what would make somebody go faster or speed generation stuff.
Hmm.
But I'm just curious to hear people's my other coaches like preferences because we all have preferences, but a lot of our preferences are based on what we've seen work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we kind of have those little tools in our toolbox of oh, I see this a lot, and this is what happens, and this is how we fix it. So kind of take me through
I
like setup stuff into you know the entire swing and what you like to see, like as far as the forces
yeah.
that we're using with the ground.
I think the universals are, when you get somebody into their best posture, meaning when we've got that center of the hip joint kind of lining up through, the ankle line, and
Okay,
I've got
yeah, because
somebody.
that can be a different answer for a lot of coaches too, right? It's like what is everybody thinks good posture is the same, and I think we've all have sort of our ideas. But I love that. Yeah, take us through from setup to
Yeah.
how you get
And
somebody started.
because if I'm looking statically at a person who's got their center of pelvis way back, right, and they've got their pressure points are all incorrect on their feet. Like they've got some really hot spots on a heel, or they're really lit up. They're literally kind of gripping the ground with their front foot just to stay in this balanced position. We got to come into a very neutral, centered posture position where they can actually use their body the right way. And that alignment to me, I've used the phrase skeletal alignment, trying to get people to feel when they set up that the structure of their body is supporting where they're standing. They don't feel any muscle activation, any real super tension to do it. And from that really critical starting point, I can begin to see how a player engages on the ground. And
So center of pelvis over ankles. That's what you said first.
love to see that down line.
Okay.
I
What about
really
upper
do.
body? Like any preferences in upper body as far as
Yeah.
checkpoints?
And I see, this trail arm position's a really big deal. And
Yes.
for players that are going to get their trail hands under, we're going to see them have a different look in how their shoulder alignments, maybe the trail elbows in, and it creates a little different look of how their center, their upper body center looks a little back. Then you
Mm-hmm.
might have a player who's, again, I go to my all my players who are really neutral with that side on with that trail hand. They're really centered, and they look super relaxed. Centers of joints are really pretty level with where they get set up too.
So
And then I've
less trail side bend. You're saying,
less they get to
but you
hear.
don't like the left bended setup. I'm guessing.
No, because
Okay.
I'll see some, and it's
Work for
rare to
right-handed
see
golfer.
somebody who's really on top, but I get some players, right, who have such limited external that they
Mm-hmm.
have no chance, so they're really on top. And
I'm just talking about the
but
spine angle.
no, yeah,
Like
so
this
so
way. You're not. Yeah.
right,
There's no like. You're not
no,
like for full swing. That is.
no,
Yeah.
and once we get that movement, then it's that really important first move of a dip in the horizontal forces that means we're pushing away from the target. There's
Mm-hmm.
a noticeable drop, and that move that's really happening before the club head goes back
Yeah. Force
is
happens before the club
is
starts.
is
Yeah.
so critical. And for so many of my players that come in, you know, I mean, I always ask player, what are you trying to do? And, well, I'm trying to turn. And their first
Mm,
move, and they're set up improperly and they're spinning. And
sure.
I'm going, we can help you here.
What do
And
you like
and
to see pressure wise in the lead foot? I mean, I know the tour averages, but like I think that's so important. Like,
yeah.
what do you like your players to?
So
How
so
much pressure in the lead side?
so when we're jogging, right, when we're seeing that pressure zigzag back and forth,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it as low as 60, and I've seen it as high as, like, when Ben Coles and I were playing around, he was over 90. So
Oh
we're really
wow,
sloshing that pressure around.
sure.
And I've had Bryson hit in the studio a couple times, and when he really gets it going, he's over 80% of that big press into the front foot
Mm-hmm.
that starts this motion back. And I really liked what James Lights shared with me, is that this, he said, imagine a car in neutral, and there's somebody pushing on the front bumper and there's somebody pushing on the back bumper, and that's always happening. And to the backswing, the person on the bumper win.
That's awesome. Yeah,
So you're always you're just letting win a little bit here,
yeah,
and you need that pressure for players that have tremendous lateral stability on the trail leg could be higher, like a Ben or a Bryson.
mm-hmm.
But when we're talking about our kind of normal players, right? And I'm in the normal mortal human range too. I can't when I do that much, I can't the person on the back bumper can't stop it, you
Yeah.
know?
I'm with you.
So
Yeah.
so for me, I'm just trying to get a feel of the player, what they can do. And when that starts, we see that horizontal force become an immediate sort of nice slope going up. And it's funny, a lot of these graphs to me remind me of different stuff. And the horizontal force graph reminds me of The Price is Right. The yodeler,
Okay.
the
Oh
yodeling
yeah.
guy,
Oh
right,
yeah.
goes
Yeah.
up and then he comes off the cliff,
Yeah.
right? And so it looks like that shape, like it's the yodeler on The Price is Right. It goes up and then drops off the cliff.
Love it.
And so it's that nice gradual thing that we see. And when I see that, I know the person has that good lateral trail side stability, that they're able to brace and slow the body down in the club, and they can change direction smoothly. And I'll see some players that go like kind of they're
Yeah,
struggling,
squiggles. Yeah,
squiggles, and I'm
yeah.
like, we gotta. Then we might get a med ball out and catch
Mm,
a med ball on there. We might just practice this feeling of, I'm not turning the ball back. I'm grabbing it and trying to slow it down and then throw it back. And they get it. Oh, that's the feel.
yeah. Shriver
So
stuff is so good. What he talked about at the summit. I love the stuff that he's doing. The Rotax I think is great. Are you using the Rotax
yep,
at all?
I love Rotex, and
Yeah.
it's some of the amazing feels again that you get right away are it's just an instant, it feels like this.
Yeah.
And students kind of they light up, when they feel it. And for
I'm using the West Virginia redneck version with the towel and the slider. So I don't have the
there ain't
rotator.
nothing wrong with that. Come
It's
on,
so
man.
good. Yeah, it actually gives them the same feel. All right,
That's
so
innovation.
we're pushing off lead side.
Yep.
There's
Bracing
probably
into trail.
bracing in the trail,
Yep.
top
And
of
what we're
backswing. What are you looking for?
and by top of backswing, now this was something I did on pressure, a study on pressure on trail foot. And I found when I got my first swing catalyst balance plate, and this was before Scott Lynn, and I got averages, and they said, hey, 80%, halfway back, and 80%, lead arm parallel. And I went, I got some guys who were like 100% at the top, and they were like 60% here at
Yeah,
early with the
and
club
they're
head below
really
their
good
hand,
still,
and
right?
they're really good.
Yeah, I see the same thing.
And when I started to mess with this, I was like, okay, it makes sense. The higher pressure at the top is the more horizontal player that's going to have this crazy lateral move.
Hmm.
And my player that's going to use verts, of course, they're not going to get a ton of trail foot pressure, and they're going to get to the lead side super early. Their upper body's over here, and they're just down and up. And I started to appreciate that, understanding that top down to the ground up matchups. And it was a big moment for me when I went, okay, if I'm they say 80%, okay, I've seen them as low as 60 and as high as 100. Now, I'm not a math major, but I'm like, okay, there's 80. That's where the average came from.
Yeah,
And if that just we know, right? If the standard deviation's that wide, it can't be a teachable average.
right.
And so that's where it started to become more unique. But I think what I'm really looking for, and what I'm really training a lot, is the deceleration part
Yeah, the
and
braking.
the braking.
Yeah, yeah,
And so for so many of my club golfers, they think that they're when they start their peaks with their accelerations and their especially their turn, that it keeps going, that they're supposed to keep going all the way through. And when I sit them down, I give them a bottle of water, and I go, just bear with me for a second. Let me explain this, okay?
yeah,
Let's understand these segments they go fast and then they stop. And then this goes here and here and here. And it's like, oh, so this one's still going. And I'm like, yes. So we work on a lot of decel drills and ways to feel how your body's bracing.
yeah. The stick drill is really good with the dowel rod. I saw you do
Thank
on
you.
your Instagram. Yeah, that's a great one.
And I just try to, like, I like what you said. It's in West Virginia. I got an East Baltimore one. It's a stick. Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
So that's all it is. But
Yeah,
that's my go-to for teaching that segment of it. And we'll see, based on that front foot, right? Whether I call him a lead foot torque player who's really driving, through that lead foot. And
hmm,
sometimes we'll see, VJ Trolio was really helpful to me, where he's like, hey, look, sometimes a player can be torque without a big shift in their center of mass. They can really grip the ground and do it this way. And I'm like, yeah,
right.
you're right. So I have really centered players that are torque. I call them torque monsters. And then I have front foot torque monsters. And I'm like, and you got to test them. You got to see
Yeah.
what you do.
Yeah.
But for a lot of players that have bad breaks, when we center them and make them center torque monsters, they're like, okay, that's better. Now,
Yeah.
does that mean lead leg better? Probably not. We probably still have to get better at the lead leg. But man, you can, when you know that where torque is coming from on lead and trail foot and how to amp one up or tone one down, it's been super helpful. And I don't share that with the students in real time.
Right. That's just stuff we're looking at, and then you kind of
We're
know
studying. Yeah.
what direction we got to go. Tell me, like, what do you like to see as far as point of contact with the feet, like into the trail side, as they're pushing into the lead side, and then as they're using their verticals and AP force, like what do you like to see as far as like where the point of contact as they're touching the ground
Yeah, so
move,
so trail foot is like as much of it as we can get in surface with the ground.
but
Like
stable, like stable
super
trail foot.
stable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that for a lot of players too, like I'll put something like a slider, right, or a paper
Mm-hmm.
plate under their foot, and I'm like, just keep this whole thing connected to the ground, right? And then on the lead foot, that super important top of the lead foot that we're landing into, that we're really engaging the front of
So,
that lead foot,
so the ball of the foot is that you're showing.
huge. And
Yeah.
so I call it falling, so that the player, when they're unweighting and falling into the top of that lead foot, man, we can push hard away from there, or we can really push back. We can
Mm-hmm.
push up. So there's a lot of force that can come from landing that pressure down, and that's that major spike in the verticals that we see.
Sure.
And for so many players that are too linear, or worse, if I've seen some people who are really trying to get early into the heel, we can seriously amplify what they're doing when they fall on the top of that lead foot.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I like the way you explain unweighting, falling, and breaking. Basically, that's sort
Yeah.
of the sequence of what we're trying to get people to do,
So
from the
so
ground
I
up.
so I said too, it's like, okay, jog, load, unweight, fall, away, back, and up. That's how I
Okay.
describe it, right?
Okay.
Jog, load, unweight, fall, push away, back, and up.
I love it.
So
I
that's
love
my,
it.
like, and that sort of process for power, and you can, and right, depending on who you have, you could amplify it. You could amplify it, you know.
Yeah, I use Smart to Move, so the interface is really easy. Um, and what I've learned probably more than anything, it's not just the magnitude of the force; it's the timing of
When
the
they're
force. Yeah, when they're getting into their lead side, when the verticals are pushing, because I've seen most people, especially your average golfers, I remember golfers are super late with their verticals,
really late, and they're
right?
and they're
So,
and they're trying not to use them.
oh yeah, of
They're
course,
they're like, I'm trying to
yeah.
stay down,
That
pull
was
the handle.
interesting. I think were you at Open Forum this
I
year?
was, yeah,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
I think it was Sasho. He was doing that the driver and the iron sort
You
of
were there late.
presentation.
I
Yeah, oh
couldn't
yeah,
stay
that
up
was
that
that was
late.
like 12, like midnight.
That was
But I
late.
think it was him. It was either him or Tattersall talked about the difference in hand speed between pro golfers and average golfers, and pro golfers are slower than average golfers. That would blow your mind right there. I
That
told that I
that's
told that one of my players today. He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, because they learn how to decelerate to get
Yep.
energy out into the club." And I was like, "They don't, they don't think about that." But that was pretty interesting.
I did love that, and I thought I loved some of the illustrations that Sean Webb and the AMG team does with their, the
Pro versus am.
overshadowing. It's
Yeah,
so good. It's
yeah.
so good. It's like,
I went to their workshop on Monday of the show, so
would
they showed a lot of that stuff.
if I move to plug in my laptop, would it be okay if the changed backgrounds, or do you want me to get an extension cord? I gotta
Uh,
plug this thing in.
yeah, you might not want to mess with it because we might lose. Like
Give
if we
me
get, yeah,
can
you
can
can.
I do I'm gonna grab a plug real
Yeah,
quick and get
sure.
this thing.
Yeah, we'll take a short break. I'll go to the bathroom anyways.
Okay, Roger. Okay, thanks.
I think we're
There we
good.
go.
Yeah.
What do you got? A White Claw?
Yep. Little claw. Big seltzer guy.
Nice.
Trying to get less fat. So
So
yeah.
I had a crazy experience at the show. I went to Apex MD. Have you heard of them?
Mm-mm.
Randall Hunt and Dr. Jim Bowen, and they're doing. They help a lot of the Live Tour, PGA, LPGA in Orlando, and I went through their assessment process, and we did a DEXA scan, a body DEXA scan,
Okay.
which is a low grade radiation scan of your body, and you lay on a table, and then you get you see your percentage of lean muscle mass. You see how fat is around your organs, which is an important thing for health and longevity.
Mm-hmm.
They measure your hip joints, how your range of motion is, like your
Wow.
what your potential range of motion is. And I did a Quest Lab, draw where they came back and they've got this whole thing of like, this is your vitamin deficiencies. Here's what you have to supplement. Here's some peptide information.
Wow.
And so
Yeah, that's important.
it's been, you know, look, we work around a lot of hyper successful people that are our peers and are our clients. And everybody wants to get smarter and healthier and well. And it's, I'm on this quest too. I'm on this journey,
Are
and
you
I've got to,
still eating plant based only?
no,
Okay.
it's so hard, you
I
know,
know.
it's
Yeah.
so hard,
Yeah.
and
You
you
and
know,
Rich Roll. I don't know if you know
oh,
who Rich Roll is.
no,
Okay.
I got to do, um, but this was interesting in this test that you got this DEXA scan. It'll tell you what your daily caloric intake needs are, and then what percentage of how, or in grams, how much protein you need a day.
Oh
And
my
I need
gosh.
126 grams of protein a day. And that's like,
That's a lot of beef jerky, dude.
that's a lot. So
But
I'm like,
I'm a big protein guy. Like that's when I was running, I've
are you
been
doing
running for.
shakes and stuff? Like, are you doing any of
No,
that, or
I do a lot of supplements though. I mean, I do creatine.
I'm on that now.
I'm taking what's called Grunes. You ever seen Grunes?
Mm-mm.
GRU. Got two little dots over it. NS. It's like a plant based, organic, like for gut health, and it's amazing. Um, that's my big one.
So it's been useful.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I
Do
cold
you
plunge
find,
every
do you
morning
find you're,
before I go to work. I don't miss a cold plunge. So
are
I'm
you
trying to get all the
better?
inflammation out of my body and everything.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're at work and you're better, like your
Oh yeah.
endurance and everything's better?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Energy. Yeah. And I fast. I mean, you wouldn't know by looking at me because I'm a little bit heavier than I normally am, but I fast all work days. I don't ever eat lunch.
Hmm.
So I teach straight through. Probably should have like a snack or two, some nuts or whatever, but I just go
I'm
water and basically I just eat one meal a day.
I'm really into, I want to figure out, for our, like this is some of the stuff that's the reality of, talk about that era of my dad, like coming, like it is very normal for the pro to party and hang out with all the events with everybody, right? You're just part of it.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
you know, um, the idea is that, you know, we have to strike a balance, right? Of like modeling good performance, but also being, you got to hang out. You can't.
Right.
And so we're always caught in this, like,
Yeah.
where are you? And I had some good friends in the golf biz who got caught up in substance abuse, and they were, trying to cope, trying to cope with the
Right.
stress and the pressure, like any job, and you know, cocaine, weed, something that they needed to either bring them up or down,
Sure.
and it's part of our business, and I know you're so successful, and and how you manage all these aspects of your life, but I I I made it clear, and and my intention with my club is that I can't work on Sundays.
Yeah.
I
I'm the same way. I set that precedent years ago. Like that's church and family,
got to.
no exception.
My wife works a normal job, and
Yeah.
if I took lessons on the weekend, I'd never see her.
Right.
And
And I
and
worked on, at the golf school, I worked Sundays forever. That's why, once I had the ability to kind of dictate a little bit, like when I was at Carmel before I came to college, and I was like, yeah, we were open 7 days a week. I'm like, I'm not working on Sundays. Figure out how
did
to
you
make it
have a
work.
staff with you, like a teaching
I
staff
did.
with you?
Yeah, I had two
Yeah.
or three. I had two or three teachers that worked for me. I don't have a staff now, so it's
Yep.
just our head pros and assistants do a little bit of teaching, but they're not directly,
Well,
reporting to me, which is kind of nice, honestly. I basically make my own schedule
and
and
you've
do the
got,
deal.
and I think too, our clients tend to be more, it's a different era, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe if you roll back the clock, people's expectations were, I can remember my father's there was like he was just there all the time. And he did say something to me that was impactful, that he when he retired, I said, to congrats, anything you do different? And he said, I wouldn't have been there as much.
Yeah. Yeah.
I probably would have taken more
Yeah.
time off.
When I was a head pro for the couple of years I was a head pro, I was probably too young for the job, underqualified, kind of got thrown in there, and I didn't think, like, I wasn't great at delegating, right? Like we always kind of look back at, I would have been
Yeah.
a better head professional 10 years after that, because I learned a lot of stuff about managing people and, that kind of thing. But I was there all the time. I mean, if I would have kept doing that, I'd have been either had an ulcer or be dead, been divorced. It's like it just wasn't, I was unhappy, right? It's like that's where you're very fortunate to find your passion. It took me 8 years to do it, right? So it took me eight
Well,
years. I didn't have a mentor that, could kind of push me in that direction until I met Miss Rader, and the rest of is history. But
so she got you down from West Virginia
no,
to
I moved to Charlotte to take the assistant's job, and then our head pro
yeah.
left and took another job, and I got promoted, which is a whole nother. I've told this story 100 times, but it's like you go from being equals with the assistant you're working with, and now you're their boss.
Hmm.
That's not an easy situation,
You're not cool anymore.
and I'm not. Well, exactly,
You
and I was, I'm
used
kind
to
of
be
like
cool, man.
used to be cool, and I was a people, very much a people pleaser, so I wasn't able to separate that relationship of boss and and
Hard.
employee, right? It's difficult, which is why I love my job now, because I'm like, some of our students are some of our best friends, right?
Yeah. True.
We've built, to be able to build relationships, and that's where I feel like I'm podcasting all day, because I'm always curious about these high level successful people in other fields of study,
It
and
suits
I'm
you.
always picking their brain.
Yeah.
I'm always picking their brain because I want to know. But yeah, you led into the daily habits without us even like talking about it. But that's, that was one of the things that I always like to get from people. It's like, what makes your day successful, right? So
I
what's that look like for you?
I get to see my family every day, and right now that means so much to me. To see my kids off to school, to have some prepared time in the morning for me, where I can prepare myself for who's coming in. I know I have this amazing library in my studio of people. They've all been there, and I learned this from um, a really good coach who talked about film time, the value of film time, of alone time, and that contemplation that I'm thinking a lot of early part of my career. If you showed up, I'd watch you hit and I'd react to everything you did. and I maybe didn't have a plan, and you got better, but it was sort of like it wasn't stick.
Sure.
And now I kind of know where, hey, how was your day? How was your round? Okay, great. I know it didn't go well, but let's start over here. Let's continue with what we're doing. And you're 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 empathizing with any struggles they have, but at the same time, you're still very much like, let's stay on task. Let's follow this, what we're doing. Here's our metrics and measurements. Let's go over the unbreakables again, as I call them for players, whether that's something in their setup or something I'm looking for in their swing. And then let's change the skill. Let's leave the studio. Let's go out in the grass. A lot of times I'll just grab a club with the player and go, let's walk out here on the range.
Yeah. Change the environment.
Change the environment.
Sure.
And
important.
so my routine is to prepare and then really enjoy being prepared in that moment for the player. And it's so much fun as we progress through a day. And then we're reacting a lot to my staff. We've got an initiative that might be coming up with a group outing, a group event we're doing, and we need to prepare meet on that. We've got new inventory turnover in the fitting room. We've got a new teacher has come on board with us, and checking in with him, making sure he's okay,
Yeah.
having success, and what can I do to help? And so how that looks in a very full day, and resetting that, I've found that time of being prepared lets me walk away from work better and come back the next day ready to go again. Where the John Wooden's book, Pyramid of Success, was really impactful. That the fact that he, for every practice, made a plan for the team and then had a plan for every player for every practice was mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
That he would have that much laid out, and the success obviously followed. But when I looked at it and myself, and I critically thought about, like, I probably am not investing enough alone time looking at each player, what I would do for them, how I would do it. And you and I know that the keyboard jockey coaches, right? That, look at a swing and, oh, this is terrible. Oh,
Sure.
this is horrible swing. Or it's like, he had no idea what's going on here. We didn't even know where the ball went. You're commenting on the golf swing,
Yeah.
right? So you don't know this guy's numbers, what he's going through, and so isn't it so true? I mean, the further you and I have gone down this road of teaching, the more humbling it gets, where you're like, I probably could have done it a lot better when I started, and I feel like I'm just getting good at it right now.
Yeah.
And I'm
it's
just
like
trying
when
to.
when we're 30, we think we know it all. And now when
Phew.
we're 50, we're like, well, I know maybe 25%.
It shrunk so much.
Well, the wisdom goes
Yeah.
up, and the expectation's different. And, the more I learn, the more I know I don't know.
The
What
Dunning-Kruger.
about your,
Yeah.
that's right. But what about you personally, what your daily habits aside from teaching, like, what do you think is important? Well,
So
you have your alone time, but like, is there anything else that you do that sort of makes you feel like
yeah.
you're at your best?
So I'll tell you in a few things what I know personally. The professional side of me that makes me feel good is typically when I have a few projects going at the same time. I tend to get very I'm a good task finisher, but if I only have one thing happening, it's sort of I get bored. So
Okay.
I
Interesting.
like to have a lot of things going and moving, and it's okay if it's a little messy for me. Meaning like that's moving to completion. Kind of a chart. We're about 80% there on this. I'm working right now on developing a training aid. I've never done that before, and
Oh,
I'm
okay.
learning
There
a
you go.
lot about that process, and I'm learning what I don't want to do, and so it's changing and pivoting all the time, and so that's been a humbling process. I'm working a lot with Golf Magazine, and my
Right.
role as liaison
Mm-hmm.
has been fascinating to learn how we're really trying to connect great teachers to a broader audience, and on a much more rapid basis.
That's
And
about to change, by the way, too, as we know. We'll talk
yep,
about that off air.
okay. And so how that's kept me engaged and learning and being a part of something bigger. And
Sure.
then PGA, education, work. And so I tend to find I thrive when I've got a lot of these things moving, and that's felt fulfilling to me personally. How I've share a little bit of my story too. Like I've quit drinking, and that's been like, I look back at my life, and I've got all kinds of substance abuse stuff in my family history, and it's like, well, why am I long day, good day, bad day? Okay, and I'm drinking a lot, and I'm like, well, why am I doing this? And that reflection for me has been like it's opened up a better conversation with myself, and I'm kind of
Gotcha.
like more understanding. I'm way more empathetic to myself. Like, hey, take it easy. If I screw something up, it's like, hey, you're still trying. And the scary part is like, I don't feel 54. Like, but I'm like, that's freaking old. And I'm like,
Yeah, just
what's going
ask
to
our kids.
happen? Yeah, what's going to happen to me in 10 years? Like, I don't know. And so it's a weird sense of urgency that I feel to be my best and do my best and try my best and connect with friends and be genuine and real. And and just as a thing for me, like in the golf business, I always hated the assistant pros who would be like, they're funny, they tell jokes, they'd act a certain way, and then a member walks in and they're like, "Oh, hello, sir." They're all of a sudden turn into like the Eddie Haskells from, if you remember, Leave It to Beaver,
Oh yeah,
right?
sure. Yeah.
Oh yes, Mrs. Cleaver. It's
Yeah.
like, and I was always like, I never, and the most amazing pros, that Bill Strasbaugh was the way he was. Bob Ford is like, it is you. There is no, he is who he is,
Yeah.
and he's just that's the most authentic person. And I look at you're authentic. You're there's no layers. It's like, this is who you are, and
Yeah.
this is what you are. And I'm trying so hard to be my most authentic self, and every day, sometimes it comes into my brain. I'm like, where did that thought come from? Like, what am I doing? But as long as we're, as an industry of people that care about this game, people that care about people that we
That's
serve,
that's the key word right there. Yeah.
we're all going to be okay.
Yeah.
And man, you and I, how many instructor wars have we seen?
Oh,
Right? Of like,
so many.
and they're really just, it's just love. It's just like, hey, I'm so passionate about what I got. I'm so you this is so me.
I'm
And
not
this,
sure all of
no,
them are love.
they get it's give me a guitar, and we'll sing around a campfire and kind of
Oh my
end these.
god.
No, but I don't, but you're right. Some of it turns really
Yeah.
far.
Yeah.
And
Relationships have been hurt. I mean, it's a shame to see because I mean we're just teaching a game.
we're
And we're
teaching
all
a
just trying to
game.
yeah we're trying to get better. And we're trying to make others better. Which yeah I mean what I'm hearing you say is and I think that's what how I've grown into being more self aware of our own behavior and the things that are going to make us happy and obviously find your joy.
Yeah.
So we're so lucky and I'm so grateful that I get to do what I do every day. It's amazing. It
It's
sounds like
it
you found that too.
I knew that I didn't plan any of this, is the reality. And I Kelly Stenzel was in Orlando. She was awarded the LPGA's Teacher of the Year. And
Hmm.
it's very well earned. And I thought her speech, it was more of an interview that they gave. And, Kelly said something really cool. She said, I just kept saying yes. I kept saying yes when an opportunity or a chance to learn or do something, I kept saying yes. And I thought that was impactful to hear that, because I thought, we're we all kind of get into our lane, and maybe that's, we get attached to something we like, preferences that we like to see when we teach. That's okay,
Sure. Yep.
right? But then you're going to get somebody that comes in who's really good, who doesn't do anything maybe the way you thought it needs to look. And and that rattled me a lot as a younger teacher, that I was dead set on maybe a position of the club. Oh, you can't do that. And then I'd see somebody who's got, more victories, and I've never imagined with that. And you and I both know at this point, we're helping people. We're sort of supporting what they're doing as a journey. And then the humility that it's maybe the beating that I've taken in my life to become this humble is
Oh
like, you
yeah.
go, I don't know enough.
Yeah.
And I'm racing to the finish line to learn as much as I can, and to give. And now it's like, to help other teachers grow. And
Love it.
I, yeah,
Yeah.
it's been,
That one of my favorite quotes as of late, because I'll ask you this last question at the end of our talk, and you may have heard it already, but it's don't believe everything you think. I think it was Joseph Gwynn. I think he wrote a book, and I heard
yeah,
it on Tim Ferriss, I think, as well. And I'm like, yeah, like I told the crowd when we did our panel discussion at the show, I'm like, you should always be challenging your information, and always be challenging your beliefs, because everything that goes into our head we think is right doesn't mean it's right. As
it's
Dr.
so,
Pryor says, beliefs are learned, nature versus nurture, right? It's like
yeah,
it's, nobody's born with, a belief. Like they're taught by our parents or the people that we surround ourselves with.
yeah.
So you should always be kind of having a microscope on your own stuff before you start,
It
telling other people they're wrong.
it's so a great way that I was taught to think about, all these thoughts that kind of go in and out of your head. You know, um, our true self, if you imagine we're sitting on the bank of a river, and a thought is floating down the river, and we can just watch it pass. We don't have to react to it. We don't have to follow it, swim after it. You could just watch it go by. And a lot of those things are learning how to become less attached to those beliefs,
Hmm.
and becoming more open. And I like the quote that, living your life with boundless possibilities is better than living with assumptions.
Hmm. Love
And
that.
so how you can sort of go, what if, what do I don't, what is it that I don't know yet? And man, looking back now, it's like, I didn't know a lot. And so now that we look at it and go, if I'm just living in possibility, and I'm removing all these constraints with this technology that we live in, with these, all these technological barriers are being eliminated to what we can find out. And how can we help more people? What can we do? And that for me has been calming, to not get really attached in that, and that thought that I want to keep and turn over and over in my head. I've
Right.
just learned to kind of watch it go by.
Good for you. Do you do any mindfulness training or anything like
Yeah, it's
around
typical.
something that kind of like, I guess, keeps us from getting too overwhelmed, or anything in your daily habits that is any
I'm
form of that?
I'm trying to um, I'm trying to enjoy being still a little bit more, and not filling the space with scrolling, with email, with, the all the things to do. And interestingly, I've, like you as a father know, I'm enjoying so much just watching my kids play golf. And
Mm, yeah.
not what they shoot, not what they, I had this wonderful experience, playing a golf tournament before the PGA show this year, and my host said, "Hey, bring your son." And I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, come on, bring him down." And we played the practice rounds together, and hit balls on the range, and it was just joy just to watch him play golf. And
Yeah.
and I guess taking time in those moments has been so rewarding. And I the story I shared at Cabot, about my real background in golf. Like, I don't know if you wanted me to go into that with my dad, but you know that whole real story about me is, when my biological father left me and my mom and my sister when I was less than a year old, and it
Oh,
was
yeah, I did
it
not hear
was
that one. Yeah, please
so
share
I
that.
so I was born in Seagirt, Baltimore, and if you know where the bridge crash happened, where the tanker ship hit and the
Yes.
bridge collapsed.
Hmm.
So on that side of the bridge where the port and Bethlehem Steel and a lot of workers, that's where I was born. And my dad, my biological father, left my small family, my mom and my sister and I, when I was less than a year old. And he had some substance abuse issues, and he was just early 70s, and skipped town. And it's funny, you hear that Bruce Springsteen song "Hungry Heart"?
Oh yeah.
Got a wife and kid in Baltimore, Jack. I went out for a ride and never went back. That was my dad. That was like
Oh
my
man.
and so I always hear that, like, that was my biological dad. And my mom was working a few jobs and doing the best she could, and my grandparents would look after us. And my grandfather was a golfer, and and he went to a public course in Baltimore called Pine Ridge. And through his experience there and playing golf, and I think he thought it'd be a good idea if my mom, got some downtime, and her and a girlfriend came out and took some golf lessons at Pine Ridge. And the young teaching professional who was just back from working at Seminole in Florida is Coleman Plecker.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And so that's how they met. And they dated and got a lot closer, and fell in love, and they got married. And I'm a kid from Seagirt, Baltimore, where you kind of were you'd be a good contractor, maybe work at Bethlehem Steel, work at the ports. It's kind of that path. And for me to have the opportunity that I've had through golf with my dad, with Coleman, who's my dad,
Yeah.
he's introduced me to all this. And so I get to sit back and look at this course of my life that was completely pivoted through golf. And, to be sitting here with you,
Wow.
to go to the places
Yeah.
I get to go to, you know, where golf is great because it affords us these experiences and relationships, and the people, like we said, that are so deep in our love for the game. And
Wow. How important your dad you feel like he's your real dad now, right? It's
as my
like
dad,
him
yeah,
stepping up,
he is
and being
absolutely
a
my
real
dad.
man as a but did you ever reconnect? You don't have to go too deep into reconnect with your
Yeah,
biological
so
dad or
I did. I got a Facebook message about a decade ago, and it was a lady in LA, and she said, I think I'm your sister.
oh my
And I
gosh.
said, who's your dad? And she said, and I said, that's my dad, and that's it. And I said, she said, I'd love to meet you. And I said, is he alive? And she said, yeah, and he's in Reno, and and I flew to LA. He didn't have enough money to do anything. And I said, well, I'll buy a ticket, come to LA. And he did. And I met him, and it was, it was, it was kind of, I could tell how embarrassed he was. And it
Mm.
was, and I didn't, I hugged him and I said, thank you for making me.
Yeah.
I'm alive. I
He brought
like,
yeah,
I'm
you did the
here.
easy part.
but and we kind of had some smiles and some moments, but I think he was just, it was a lot of burden for him because
Sure.
he had gone through this long history of alcohol and substance abuse, and that's part of like my story.
Sure.
and
Yeah.
and but the fact that I got to meet him, and he's since passed.
Do
My
you feel like
mom,
that brought you some closure to some things that you probably were dealing with? I'm
totally,
sure. Yeah.
totally.
I
And
bet.
because you get asked on a medical questionnaire, they're like, tell us about your family history.
Oh
Well,
boy.
I got this
Yeah.
side, I got no idea what's going on. you know
When did you change your name?
when my parents got married, when I was about 6 years old, I took the last name Plecker,
Gotcha.
and I
So
have the
cool.
middle name. And my original birth certificate name, this is, I've never told this to anybody, was Joseph Dietrich Wolfgang Wischusen.
What?
So
Oh
you're
my
looking at
goodness.
a Wolfgang right here,
That
Dietrich
is
Wolfgang Wischusen. So I'm
that's
about,
fantastic.
I took one of those DNA kit tests, and it was like German. It's like all, like the whole wheel, and I was like, well, that's not so exciting. But but
Wow.
but it was, that's the story about
Oh,
how
thanks for sharing
golf
that.
changed
Yeah,
that.
I know. I
Yeah,
know
man.
it's definitely not, probably not easy, but that's so
It's
cool. And it
me.
just makes, I know, and I applaud you for that. And it just makes me love Coleman even more now, right? It's like
Yeah,
him stepping in and like doing the job he's done with you, and your siblings is like unbelievable. I
it's
mean, that
amazing.
not everybody can do that.
We
Really,
we
really cool.
we all fell in love, and I tell you, my dad's 79. My mom passed about 5 years ago, and my dad, in the last 3 years, has lost his vision. He's become
Oh wow.
blind from a rare vascular condition with his eyes. But we talk all the time on the phone. He's really active with where he lives. He's got a ton of people hang out with him, and
Yeah.
and
He's got to be so proud of you.
well, I share with him as much as is going on in my day, and we just marvel at our intersection of our lives. And I got to I he was the guy that, um, the GPTP, when you had to go around and get your membership to the
Mm-hmm.
PGA.
Yeah.
Mine was in my graduation level was in Anaheim, California. That was the best I could get at the timing. And I don't want to cry over this, but I haven't thought about it in a while. But he showed up, and
Oh wow.
he was, you get elected to membership, and typically
Sure.
it was the guy that who was there. And he surprised me. He showed up,
Oh
and
man.
there's a picture I've got of him and me in Anaheim getting
That
my
is
membership.
that
And
is
and
awesome.
here's the crazy part. He's he's I became a quarter century member, and on October 31st, and on November 1st he became a 50-year member.
Wow.
And I went, I didn't know we were a day
Legacy man.
apart in that. So it's crazy,
That
but
is crazy.
means a lot. Means a lot. Yeah.
That is so cool. All right. So before I let you go, you've been
Yeah.
super with your time. I'll tell the story about your airplane visit with the lady that was a Holocaust. Do you remember this?
This
A
is a great
Holocaust
story.
survivor. Yeah, I think
Oh
that was
man.
such an awesome story. And then I'll let you. We'll wrap it up.
It was so I had a flight. I'm doing PG education, and I'm going back and forth. And I'm flying Southwest. I didn't check in early, so I have a C boarding pass. And as Joe Hallett said, C means center, right? And so I get on, and my strategy whenever I have a C boarding pass is to look for the two smallest people and sit there.
Yeah.
I'm getting on the plane, and I'm like the last person, and there it is, like, there's these two little old ladies, and I sit down, and laptop comes out, and the announcement comes off and says, there's no Wi-Fi on the flight. And this lady looks at me, and she goes, well, we have to talk. And I said, okay. So I said hello, and she says hello, and we start chatting, and she's said, you live in Baltimore? I'm going to see my family in Florida. So, oh, do you live there? No, I'm up here, but I like to go there, see them. And I find out she has a very thick German accent, and she is telling me the story. I'm like, well, where are you from? She says, I'm from Berlin. I said, well, where have you been back? She goes, I haven't been back since the war. The war started. And she told me the story of her life. And she said that she was 14, and her boyfriend asked her to go away to Israel. The week before, they were sneaking away. She got her father's permission to go to Israel for a trip with her boyfriend. And the week that they went away, Germany started rounding up all the Jews. And her family, she stayed out the war in Israel, and her entire family was killed
Wow.
in the
Yeah.
Holocaust. And uh, she and her husband moved to America. He was very successful in his business and had since passed. And she would tell me about her life and what she learned. And she shared with me one thing that I always remembered. Um, she said, um, anything in extremes is not good, and moderation should always be the key.
Hmm.
And she had packed her own sandwich. She had very modest thing, but she was so calm about it and sharing with me this horrific tragedy of losing her entire family, but yet she found the courage and strength to go on and live a complete life, have a family, to do the best she had with what she could, and to practice moderation in a very
Love
stoic
it.
way about her
Yeah.
life. And when we got off the flight, I took a picture with her, and there were people that had been overhearing the story, and people were lining up to shake her hand and hug her, and they had heard that this was happening. But
Wow.
it was when we sit down a lot, right? If I would have sat down and that internet worked, and maybe headphones, and I'm just cranking away on something, I never would have had the experience of speaking with her.
Hmm.
And it was such a moment to say, hey, take it all in,
Yeah.
learn from others, and be authentic. But I'll just never forget her telling me about extremism in any form
Yeah.
is bad.
Yeah.
And
Such
that
a
was
great
it.
story.
Yeah.
Such a great story. All right. Last question.
Come on.
Okay. So if you could have a gigantic billboard and put anything on it to get a message to billions of people, to the world, it could be another quote, a mantra, picture, whatever. Metaphorically speaking, of course, what would your billboard say and why?
That's such a good question. You really caught me off guard with that. If I thought about it, I've I'm almost paraphrasing. I've been reading a lot of The Creative Act by Rick Rubin, the music producer.
Mm-hmm. I read it or I listened to it on Audible. So good.
So many good things.
Yep.
And the idea is that we're all creators, no matter what you decide to do with your life, no matter whether it's being the world's best CEO, golf teacher, parent, uh, driver, whatever it is that you want to do, and being in tune with how you're open to receive your creativity, use all of your gifts to the best of your abilities, and leave a positive impact on the world. And I think if everybody went about their day not as mundane as I think a lot of people feel about life, they feel weighed down by it, they feel burdened. But if you actually step back and thought, I have all these gifts and abilities, take this opportunity, use all of your gifts, and whatever you decide to create, do it to the best of your abilities. And I think you'll find happiness that way.
Perfectly said, my man. What a way to close. That's strong. Strong as strong as black coffee right there, but I tell
Listen,
you,
Love you, man. I appreciate you
I,
so much.
I appreciate you. Tell everybody how they can follow you on your social handles, email
Yeah,
if you want to give it out. Anything that what you're doing.
I love I love talking to people through my Instagram, which is just my name. It's at Joe Plecker. I'm here at the Landings Golf and Athletic Club, and that's my email here is my name. It's joe.plecker@landingsclub.com, and that's a great way to ask questions or find out more. I'm going to be doing a lot more golf schools hopefully this year. I'm going to do more opportunities to come learn. Teachers that want to talk teaching, I love that. I feel like you do that it's our duty at this point to help others that want to push this further.
That's right.
And I think uh, I my all my contact. I think if through that Instagram, through my club email here too, and reach out any way that is best for you. I'd love to talk about teaching, life, this crazy life.
It's
It's the
great, man.
best.
We went deep. We went pretty deep. I loved it. I loved it. I really enjoyed this conversation and
So
appreciate
kind
your
of you.
time, my man.
I'm honored to be a part of this and continue the great work. And I can't wait to be in person with you again soon. Thank you.
Likewise, my friend.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, man.